In the business world, it's dog eat dog, and you need every bit of competitive edge you can possibly get. Whether you're a salesperson, an entrepreneur, a small business owner, or corporate executive, you've landed on the podcast that gives you that edge and more. This is the Business Coach Unplugged Podcast. Exploring the strategies, tactics, and mindset shifts needed to elevate your business and leadership skills to new heights. Your host has walked the walk. He's coached thousands of clients to remarkable results and rubbed shoulders with legends like Tony Robbins, Ken Blanchard, Jack Canfield, and Brian Tracy. It's practical advice, inspiring stories, and the occasional dose of tough love, helping you to overcome challenges and seize opportunities. This is the Business Coach Unplugged Podcast. And now your host, owner of Potential in Motion, coaching you to the edge of what's possible, Tom Kelly.
Welcome to the Business Coach Unplugged Podcast. I'm your host, Tom Kelly. Today I want to tackle the topic of empowerment. There seems to be a goal or desire in most business environments to create a culture of empowerment where employees are given the autonomy, resources, and support they need to make decisions, take ownership of the work, and contribute to the company's success. While this seems like a great goal and intention to have, many companies struggle to create this type of environment for multiple reasons. One of them is the lack of great managers, which I covered in my October 16th podcast from 2024, What Makes a Great Manager, and the other is the lack of self-leadership from an employee perspective. The reality is you can try to empower your people by giving them the autonomy to create their own results, but if they don't have self-leadership skills, then empowerment just won't work. In today's podcast, I'm going to cover the 3 skills of self-leadership: challenging assumed constraints, activate points of power, and be proactive. All 3 of these skills I learned from one of my mentors, Ken Blanchard. In Self-Leadership and the 1-Minute Manager, Ken covers these 3 skills in much greater depth than I'm going to today. So if you're looking for a deeper dive on these concepts, I would highly recommend picking up his book. I think you'll find these skills useful no matter what type of business you're in or what type of role you happen to play. The reality is that if you can't lead yourself, then you're going to have a hard time leading others. So this is a skill that we all need to get better with. The first key of a self-leader is the ability to challenge assumed constraints. An assumed constraint is a belief based on past experience that limits current and future experiences. I also refer to assumed constraints as limiting beliefs. Limiting beliefs are very powerful due to the fact that there's nothing stronger in the human mindset than to be right. So if we have a belief that limits us, our subconscious mind will usually do whatever it takes to create a situation where that limiting belief becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy in a bad way. So how do you know if you have an assumed constraint or limiting belief? Usually they show up in the form of negative internal dialogue, excuses for why you can't get a certain result, or pointing fingers and blaming others. They usually take one of 2 forms: a global belief or an if-then belief. An example of a global belief is there's not enough time in the day. Global beliefs are statements that are global in nature and always apply. An example of an if-then belief might be, if I didn't have such a poor manager, then I could get my job done. If you had the global belief of there's not enough time in the day, then you'd probably notice that you never have enough time to get things done, as your brain will manifest what you focus on. So one of the key skills when it comes to self-leadership is first recognizing your assumed constraint and then really challenging that belief system. One great tool that you can use to shatter these assumed constraints and limiting beliefs is a 4-question process that Byron Katie put together. By asking yourself the following questions, you can usually shatter that belief that's holding you back. One of the great tools that you can use to shatter these assumed constraints and limiting beliefs is a 4-question process that Byron Katie put together. By asking yourself the following questions, you can usually shatter that belief that's holding you back. Question number 1, is that true? Question number 2, can you absolutely know it's true? Question 3, how do you react when you believe that thought? And question number 4, who would you be without that thought? I like to add an additional question: what would you need to believe instead in order to get the result you want? The answer to those questions will usually provide you with a much more empowering belief that will shatter whatever assumed constraint that you may be preventing you from getting the result you want. The second skill of a self-leader is the ability to activate your 5 points of power. This is a really important skill, as most of us don't even realize that we have different points of power, let alone tap into them and leverage them to get better results. Having said that, the 5 points of power you can tap into are positional power, personal power, task power, relationship power, and knowledge power. Let me define each one for you so you can tap into each one of these when you need to. Positional power is just like it sounds, power from having a title or position. With every position comes a certain level of positional power that allows you to command resources and or manage people. Personal power is the power you obtain from your personal attributes like character, passion, persistence, personality, communication skills, and the ability to build rapport and influence or persuade people. Task power comes from your ability to perform a certain task that others can't, or even prevent people from accomplishing certain tasks. For example, my virtual assistant has the power to add you to my calendar or prevent you from meeting with me. Relationship power comes from your ability to create relationships and leveraging them to generate the results you want. And finally, knowledge power comes from the knowledge, expertise, and skills that you have as evidenced by your degrees, training, and competencies to get certain results based on what you know. Self-leaders know what their points of power are and leverage them when they need to drive results. The third skill set of a self-leader is the ability to be proactive. This comes from taking the initiative to get the right direction and support that you need to achieve the outcome you're looking to achieve. By understanding what development level you're at with respect to a certain task, you can then seek out the right amount of direction and support that you need to succeed at that task. For example, if you're brand new to a task that you've never completed it before, you can find someone that's created that outcome and get the specific steps from them. You can also identify when you might need someone to coach you on a topic, or perhaps brainstorm some ideas with you, or you might come to the conclusion that you know exactly how to drive the result on your own and just go do it. The key to being proactive is to identify what you need and ask for it. It's one of the key skills that you need to truly make empowerment work. Another key distinction that I want to mention with respect to being proactive is the ability to be explicit in your communications with others. Most people communicate in an implicit way, which usually leads to miscommunication or misunderstanding. Proactive self-leaders communicate in a very direct, explicit way that provides clarity. This is imperative in a business environment where directly asking for what you need gives clarity to the person that you're requesting assistance from. So just to recap here, if you want to be empowered to create an empowering work environment, then you have to be skilled in self-leadership, mainly challenging assumed constraints and limiting beliefs, activating your points of power, and being proactive. Adding in the skill of explicit communication will also help you to maximize your capacity to become a self-leader. So that wraps up today's podcast on the 3 keys to self-leadership. If you found this information useful and want to take a deeper dive into the topic, I highly recommend Ken Blanchard's book, Self-Leadership and the 1-Minute Manager. Additionally, as a channel partner for Blanchard, I can come in and do a full-day training program on self-leadership for you and your team. I offer the program in both in-person and virtual formats. This is a great way to teach your team on how to become self-leaders and is a key step to building a culture of empowerment. If you're interested in this, please reach out to me at tomkelly@potentialinmotion.com. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. If you found today's episode useful, you can also access a number of free resources that will help you improve your business as well as your leadership on my website at www.businesscoachchicago.com. Also, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn as I would love to connect with you. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the podcast, please click the subscribe button, leave a review, and of course, invite your friends to listen as well. I'm Tom Kelly, and until next time, enjoy your week.
You've been listening to the Business Coach Unplugged Podcast. On this highly useful podcast for people in the business world, you get the absolute top-notch info from an absolute pro on how to elevate your business and your leadership skills. Tom Kelly owns Potential in Motion, coaching you to the edge of what's possible. He's also a professional speaker and leadership trainer. He's worked with some of the biggest names in the coaching business: Tony Robbins, Ken Blanchard, Jack Canfield, Brian Tracy. To sign up for a complimentary coaching session and to access some great free resources, hit the website at businesscoachchicago.com. Your success is not just a possibility, it's a certainty. See you next time on the Business Coach Unplugged Podcast.